Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Good evening. My name is Russell Brooks, tonight's host of Inside Scoop. Tonight's program will focus on the state of our schools in Fairfax County and the issues surrounding them. My special guest tonight is the Franconia representative on the Fairfax County School Board, Marcia St. Cunning. Marcia has been a resident of the Franconia district in Fairfax County for 35 years. She and her husband, Dan Cunning, have raised 3 daughters who attended Rose Hill Elementary School, Twain Middle School, and graduated from Edison High School, with one daughter attending the Fairfax Academy for Musical Theater. She originally joined the Fairfax County Public Schools as a family liaison, Spanish language interpreter, then became a Family Engagement Region 3 representative. When FCPS launched its first elementary community school pilot, Marcia joined United Community to serve as the on-site community school coordinator at Mount Vernon Woods Elementary. When she recognized the lack of affordable enrichment opportunities for students, she founded the free pre-pandemic Root US1 Summer STEAM program for students at Bucknell, Hybla Valley, and Mount Vernon Woods elementary schools. Her impressive record of community activism led her to run for election to the Fairfax County School Board to represent the Franconia district. She won in the general election on November 7, 2023, and she assumed the office on January 1st, 2024. Marcia, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Inside Scoop. Let's begin.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great. What motivated you to run for the school board?
So, as you mentioned, I've worked in the schools for 26 years, primarily as a family liaison for systemically undervalued families. And in all of that work that I did in my role as family liaison, what I started to realize was that that one position really touched a lot of our families, but it was an hourly part-time position without any benefits. And that's what first got me involved with interacting with the school board, where we started to lobby for full benefits, medical and retirement. Now, at the time, it didn't impact me personally because of my husband's health insurance, but I realized that a lot of the family liaisons didn't have that safety net. And what would end up happening is that you would have these very talented family liaisons that would leave the position so that they could get benefits. Sometimes they would stay in the school system because the principals didn't want to get rid of them, but they would be transferred to become an office assistant or something like that. So in that sense, I thought we're losing this great resource because there are people that have connections to the community that can provide resources that can help our, systemically undervalued families. And if they only had benefits, then that would help. So it was a long fight. It took us several years to get it done. But that's kind of what got me motivated to start looking at how the school board operated, how I could advocate. When the person, Tammy Koufax, who was representing Franconia, decided to retire, I was approached by several people and encouraged to run. And I thought that after serving for 26 years in the school system, that I would bring some value of having what I've done down in the trenches to the school board. And it was also important to me to be a representative for the Latino community. We have approximately a third of our students are Latino, and there was not a Latino voice on the school board. Coming from where I come from and my background from an immigrant mother growing up in a border city, I'm very familiar with some of the challenges and obstacles and also the great benefits that our immigrant families bring. So I thought that would be a benefit. So that's it.
Fantastic. Has the experience on the school board been what you expected? Has it accomplished, basically, has it been what you thought it might be?
So in one way, I was a little bit surprised because I thought, I have worked in the school for 26 years, and I thought I was very knowledgeable, and I am with down in the trenches type of things. But when I got to the school board, and every new school board member would say this, they felt like they were drinking out of a fire hose because there's a lot of information that comes to you. I think that transition is something that I'm learning to navigate, and learning to look at things not just from the vantage point of one area and one school, but holistically. So it's been a learning experience, and what we tell all of our kids is that you have to have a growth mindset, you have to be open, and you can't say, I don't know how to do it. You have to say, I don't know how to do it yet. So that's been my philosophy.
Sounds like a wise philosophy. Now, you're saying you're drinking from the fire hose, but have there been any disappointments in your experience?
So I think my biggest disappointment when I came on the school board, immediately we went into starting to look at the budget. And I know from working with amazing teachers and amazing staff members and seeing what the needs were right after COVID, I was like, we need more social workers, we need more counselors, we need more psychologists, and I'm really going to go and advocate for that because this is what we need for our children. And then you run up to the budget and the budget constraints. And when we had our first joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors, some of whom knew me from some of my work, I was able to say what has really disappointed me was that I realized that what we as a school board can do is limited by the number of dollars we get. And so that was kind of a disappointment to realize we have to balance so much.
Would you say that has been maybe your biggest surprise since you've been on the board?
I think that probably has been my biggest surprise, because when I did work in the school system, if there was a need, and again, not a huge need that was millions of dollars, I would always figure out how to find it, how to find the money, how to do something, how to get a grant. You can't do it at the scale of a whole school system. And so that has been my biggest disappointment because, you know, I can go out and seek a grant, but it's not going to cover the number of counselors or psychologists or social workers that we need, or even family liaisons, you know. So yeah, that's been my biggest disappointment.
Okay, understandable. But what has been maybe the biggest accomplishment of the current board?
So the current board has probably a couple of things that I can say we've accomplished. One of the things we accomplished and we brought up was the cell phone policy. And although the cell phone policy was already written, it wasn't being implemented effectively. So, and that's a large pressure to put on teachers sometimes. So we decided to implement a pilot where we did the cell phone putaways for certain schools, middle and high schools. And it just so happens that two of my schools are in the pilot, which is Edison High School and Lewis High School. And the kids in middle, and also Twain, and Mark Twain Elementary, where they have pouches. And it's a pilot, so we're looking at different ways of how this works. But by being in the schools and talking to administrators both at Edison and at Lewis, we're seeing how successful it is, because we're seeing that students teachers first of all have the support from the school board and central office saying this is what has to be done. And we're seeing a reduction in behavior issues. And also, I do speak to the students, and I have some relationships with some students that I'm like, I want you to be telling me how this is going. And they take that very seriously, and they'll email and they'll say, well, this is what's happening. At the beginning, when this started, there was a kind of, from the students, like, I don't know about this. I don't know that I like this too much. But as time has gone on, they're starting to see the benefit of it. And interestingly enough, when you ask them what's the benefit, they will say, well, I'm talking to my friends more. Which is one of the things that we realized happened with COVID, that people became socially isolated.
Yes.
And I can study more. I can be more focused. The one consistent thing from high school that I've gotten is that they wish that they had cell phones during the advisory period, which is kind of like that one period that they wish that they could have them. But overall, I've gotten great feedback from students and also from staff. So that is one of the things we've accomplished. The other thing that has been an accomplishment, and it's not easy, and we're still going through the process, is that there has not been a boundary review that is a comprehensive boundary review in Fairfax County schools. It's like when a school is built, it's kind of been done piecemeal, how boundaries are drawn. And you know, going back, we could not find like an official comprehensive boundary review like going back 40 years. And so we know that, you know, demographics have shifted, populations have shifted, and that impacts schools. So we are in the process right now where we have directed the superintendent to do a comprehensive review of boundaries and to come back with some suggestions that the school board would look at. And that is another big accomplishment. Also, what has started is there's a new curriculum that is starting from K to 6, a new literacy curriculum. That teachers are being trained on, and one of the things that is really important, and you know, always when you bring in something new, it's could be a little bit onerous, it could be a little bit of training, but it's going to provide more consistency because a lot of the curriculum is already prepared. Whereas in the past, teachers were preparing curriculum for themselves, and so it would look different at this school versus this school. Now it's going to be more consistent, and the curriculum also has a wide breadth to it, to where there's even curriculum in Spanish for some of our Spanish-speaking children. So I think that's going to help a lot with consistency, because we also do have kids that move from one school to another. And so if you're learning a specific curriculum in the 2nd grade that has been designed by a teacher, and even though it's the same content area, but it's designed differently at this school than at this school, then that can be confusing for some children. But there's going to be some consistency, and I think once we get that under our belt, we're going to be doing really well with that.
Excellent. Back to the pilot program, and I know we're going to have a break coming up soon, so we'll have to make the answer a little short.
Okay.
But where do you see it going? If this pilot is working well, do you see it expanding to all schools, or maybe just a few more schools in the next school year?
Personally, I see that it's going to expand. I think that, again, any pilot program is to see how it works and to work out the kinks. And to be honest with you, we've gotten some great suggestions from the kids. The kids in middle school use pouches that are locked. And so they're talking about, you know, we're looking at that to see if that's the best investment on those pouches or not.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. We're off to a great start in our discussion, but we're going to have to pause for a short break. Please stay with us, and we'll be back with more Inside Scoop in just a moment. Thank you.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. I don't know what to get on. Very sad, no more love. All that I could do was remember you. You know I usually stay now, but if you throw me love off the wheel some more.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes. I
Right?
mean, like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know?
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you, what did you?
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Yes, we're back on Inside Scoop with Marcia St. Cunning, the Franconia representative on the Fairfax County School Board. Marcia, how is the superintendent, Michelle Reed? How's she doing?
Well, I think that she's doing very well. Her contract was just extended unanimously. She runs a school system, and I think it's important to put this in context, that we have 199 schools and centers with nearly 183,000 pre-K through 12th grade students. So having that large of a population and being the largest schools division in Virginia, and even some of our numbers where we talk about the number of our students that are free and reduced lunch students, that's a larger number than some divisions in Virginia. So not even taking our entire population, and our community demands the best. They want a world-class education, which is often said. As many of our Board of Supervisors say, that the engine of this community is our schools, and people come here because of the schools and the workforce. When Dr. Reed, guided us out of COVID, but she also wanted to have a strategic plan for the school system. And before I was a school board member, I was part of the core strategic planning committee, which met for over a year, approximately a year, and there were different subcommittees, and there was opportunities to go to different schools and have community input to develop the strategic plan. And so we have a North Star that we're following, and she's very intentional about saying, this is our North Star, and we're not going to start changing goals or doing anything until we reach these specific goals. Two of the biggest ones are every child reading by third grade at the third grade level, and every child having 8th grade algebra. And so that had not been happening in the past, and we are not going to deviate and do anything else until we accomplish those goals. And she's very firm on that. I really appreciate that she has set that up and that she has gotten so much community input on that. She is very methodical in the way that she works. As someone that's worked in the school system for 26 years and has seen several superintendents come and go, she is out in our schools every week. She goes to games, she goes to plays, she goes to orchestra and band concerts. She's out in the community as well. She goes to different community meetings, different community centers. If somebody has an issue, her door is wide open for people to come in and speak to her. In terms of public engagement and reaching out to the community, I have never seen a superintendent that is that dedicated to that. She's thoughtful in what she does, and she follows that North Star. So I personally think that she's doing a great job. I think that as we go forward in our strategic plan, we are going to meet those goals. Some of those goals we are already exceeding. So I feel that we're very fortunate to have a superintendent of that caliber in our school system.
Well, that's a glowing recommendation. I think she should utilize you as her publicist. But back to the school board. As we look around the country, we know that ideological division and argument, divides are frequent on school boards these days, unfortunately. But on the Fairfax County Public School Board, do you have those similar difficulties?
Fortunately, we don't. I think that, you get 12 people in a room, and we're all very opinionated and strong-willed people, but I think all of us believe in the value of public education. We believe in protecting public education. We believe in ensuring that every student gets the best service that they can get, regardless of their zip code, their socioeconomic background. And I think that on the overall core concepts, that everyone on that school board believes in that value of a free public education and knows that that is the cornerstone to a strong democracy.
Couldn't argue with that.
Not to say that we don't have differing opinions about certain things, but, I think that, again, gets down in the weeds about, we want to get to the same end. It's just that we might have different opinions on which road will take us there. But we really try to work with each other to come to a consensus, to ensure and put students first and staff second. Or not, I don't even want to say second, because I think that, you need that strong, robust staff in that school to be able to provide everything that the students need.
Okay. So speaking about those different roads that sometimes board members may have differences of opinion on, are there arguments, as in some systems, about the types of books that are in libraries, or about what is taught in classes, such as American history? We've seen those sort of debates taking place in different parts of our country. Are those arguments taking place here in Fairfax County?
So, as a school board, we listen to what the public and the constituents say. At every school board meeting, there's an opportunity for people to come and express their opinions and tell us what they think. And we also have a review board that includes citizens, that if something comes up and is objectionable, that review board will look at it, and it's comprised of citizens, and then those decisions are made as to whether that book or that subject matter should or shouldn't be taught. Amongst the school board members, up to this point, that hasn't been something that we've had to face, but we have a mechanism within the system to address that and to listen to the concerns of constituents.
I think that is a concern that a lot of parents express. They want to believe that the school board actually listens to them. So with that in mind, is there sufficient parental involvement in decisions that are being made in the school system?
So that is my area of expertise, because I was a parent liaison. So, and part of my job was to engage parents and have them come into the schools. And the level of engagement is different in different, like elementary schools, you see a lot more engagement than in middle and high schools. Obviously, they're your babies when they're in elementary school, and that support is there. Trying to get people involved, and Fairfax County has involved is really one of the things that we want to do, to finish my sentence. But we have the Office and Department of Family and School Partnerships, and that is specifically geared to support parents, to help them understand the school system, to let them know what they can do. And we have translation services in the 7 major languages. We have interpreters that are available to help parents navigate the school system. So I can tell you that it's inconsistent. In some areas, there's more parental involvement than in others, but we really work hard to look at those areas where there isn't, and then try to find a way that we can get parents involved. I'll give you a specific example. I used to work at a school, and we had a large Latino population, but we did not have a lot of Latino involvement. So I ended up starting an after-school program that was Mexican Ballet Folklorico. And the school was Rose Hill, which is an immersion program. And the first year I thought, oh, all of our Latino families are gonna join this group. And that didn't happen. What happened was the parents who had their kids in Spanish immersion that were white or black parents had their students be involved. And so, but then again, if you build it, they will come. Eventually, we started getting more of those families come, and what they did was they would come and stay with their kids at the after-school program because they were a little bit, unsure. Well, then the teacher started to see them there, and the teacher started to say, hey, since you're waiting here, do you think you can help me cut this out? Hey, since you're doing this. So then eventually those parents started to get more and more involved in the school because they felt that there was that connection. So I think providing that inviting environment, and in this case it was a dance program, and then eventually they got to see their kids perform. and they got more involved in providing for the after-school program, but they also got more involved in other activities. And what was really nice was that they also got to meet the other parents, and they had certain skills that they would bring, like one of them, which it sounds simple, but it really made a difference. Like a lot of the Latino moms knew how to braid hair very well for the dance program, and a lot of the other moms didn't know how to braid hair. So then the kids were really proud that their mother could braid hair, and everybody wanted, you know, this lady to braid this hair, and then even the moms started to get into a competition of how fancy the braids were. But that instilled such pride in the children of, this is what my mom can do, and it also made the moms feel like, I'm contributing something that another mom doesn't know. And so I think sometimes we have to be creative and find ways to engage parents, and then some of those parents went on to get involved in the PTA.
Excellent. That's a great story. The teachers. How is the morale among teachers, in your opinion?
So I think the morale, and again, I have a lot of friends that are teachers, and I hear a lot of different things. I think overall morale is better. I think that now this is the first year that our teachers have entered into a collective bargaining situation, which they never had. And the success rate that they've had where their voice will be heard, I think has really helped. I think sometimes it depends on where a teacher is in her trajectory of her career, if she's at the end of her career, if she's at the beginning of her career, if she's getting the right supports, if she isn't. I will say this, from working in the school system and working with teachers who, I mean, undeniably are the heroes of our nation, is that teachers get into teaching because they love to teach. They want to be in the classroom. And sometimes what happens is that they get bogged down with paperwork. And that's not why they got into teaching. This particularly happens with teachers that are in special education. And we have been able to provide an extended workday for teachers and pay them for that extra time. So I think that the morale of teachers overall is basically good, but I think anything as a school board that we can do to minimize the time that they spend out of the classroom doing what they're passionate about and working with the children, I think the morale will go sky high, because that's why they're in it.
Absolutely. But maybe quickly before we go to our next break, well, maybe we'll have to hold this for a little more time. Okay. Because it's time for another short break. So please stay tuned to Inside Scoop as we continue to talk about the state of our schools with our Franconia representative, Marcia St. Cunning. So we'll return shortly with more Inside Scoop. We're having a great discussion. Really enjoying it.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Hi, I'm Josh Temple. You might have seen me on TV where I help folks turn their houses into dream homes. But forget construction. Parenting is the toughest job there is. So when you need help or advice, turn to the parenting experts at Boys Town.
I was afraid of that.
Well, guess it's time to get you fixed.
Your pets will start fooling around sooner than you think.
Go on, get out of here!
Accidental litters lead to millions killed in shelters each year. Help prevent more. Fix at month 4.
Food. It nourishes, brings us together, and adds flavor to life. That's why it's important to wash hands, surfaces, and fresh produce. Keep raw meat, poultry, and seafood separate from ready-to-eat foods like fruits and vegetables. And cook to proper temperatures using a food thermometer. Enjoy and refrigerate leftovers within 2 hours. For more tips on safely preparing foods, visit homefoodsafety.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
We're back with our special guest, Marcia St. Cunning of the Fairfax County Public Schools, the Franconia representative for that school system. We started to get into this, but unfortunately we had to go away. How is Fairfax County doing in terms of recruiting new teachers?
So I may have to read some of the statistics here because I'm really excited. We have been working really hard to recruit and retain teachers. As the entire country experienced after COVID, there was just a massive teacher shortage. But I'm happy to report that there were over 2,000 teachers hired as of December 1st, and the teacher departures decreased by 37%, with 22% of those departures being due to retirements. So that's a really nice statistic to have. So the vacancy rate has been cut in half. But right now what I'm really excited about is the recruitment and retention strategies that we have. And I have been to some of the job fairs where we host job fairs all over the county for people from the whole DMV area or beyond to come. We're also sending some of our recruiters out to colleges and universities that have strong teaching programs to try to recruit people in. One of the things that we've done is we are leveraging the international exchange programs such as Participate Learning, and that has provided us experienced educators from abroad, and they have come in. And what's wonderful about that is I've met some of these teachers, and they're really bringing in some of their experience from the country that they are. I know that in one particular school, Groveton, that I was at, the teacher that came in is now having her 4th grade class write to a 4th grade class in the country that she's from. So that's leveraging, you know, what she knows and connecting kids from one country to another. So those are great experiences.
What are some of the countries that these teachers are from?
Oh my goodness. Well, I do know for sure this one teacher was from the Caribbean, from one of the islands. I can't tell you off the top of my head where they're from, but that's really important. Like, we have 100 of these teacher ambassadors in the county this year, which I think is really, really nice. We're also pairing student teachers annually with master teachers to complete their practicum requirements. So that's going to build that pipeline for those teachers to come to us as student teachers. Then they're being paired with one of our teachers learning our system, and then they'll be able to come. We also have a program for teachers, a pipeline that we have for teachers when you're in high school and you're learning to be a teacher, where if they complete that program and they go to college, they automatically are going to have a contract with us. So that's really important. I think one of the other things that we're learning is that we're looking into our own workforce. We have people that are underemployed in our workforce. Like, in the years that I've worked in the county, I have seen people working as a custodian, but in their country they were a teacher. Or working as an office assistant, but in their country they were a teacher. So we're starting to look at our own workforce and say, how is it that we can take some of these underemployed employees that already are with us and help them get their teaching certificates in the United States? What is that we need to do, and bring them up along the pipeline? And the benefit to that too is that a lot of these employees are Fairfax County residents, and if they can move out of a custodial position into a teaching position, that's going to lift their standard of living, and it's going to lift the entire community.
Sure.
So that's really exciting that we're doing that. The other thing that, as I mentioned earlier, is we expanded the contract hours for our special education teachers, and we expanded it into their pay, not like an end-of-the-year bonus. And that makes a difference in terms of how the retirement is calculated. If you give it to them as an end-of-the-year bonus, it counts differently as opposed to being part of your salary.
Yes.
So we're really trying to leverage that. We're really trying to reach out and speak to teachers about what they want. Again, the collective bargaining is going to be another aspect that I think is going to help us. But I'm really excited with what we're doing with trying to get teachers recruited and retained.
Excellent. It sounds like there's a lot of innovation taking place.
Yes, we're
Now,
really excited.
Fairfax County is an increasingly diverse county or community. How are the schools dealing with these changes, with this diversity?
So one of the things that we have in Fairfax County is a portrait of a graduate. And it's so funny because one of the things that we talk about is developing a child into being a global citizen. And what I say is, by virtue of the fact that you live in Fairfax County, you are a global citizen. I think some of the things that we're doing, again, is trying to hire a more diverse workforce, celebrating diversity. Again, when I worked with family and school partnerships, we would have trainings where people from different backgrounds would go to the school. We provided trainings and we would talk about different cultural aspects of different regions and how teachers could learn how to speak to children or to parents. That still happens. We still have those trainings. I would be on a panel sometime for that. I'll tell you a couple of the stories that are really funny that some of my colleagues would share. One of our family liaisons and community liaisons was from Egypt. And when she first came to the country, way back when, she was one of the first Egyptian mothers. And she had, her son was in kindergarten, and the teacher wrote a note like, oh, your son's kissing all these kids and everything. And she was so happy. She's like, that's so nice. He's being so friendly. Until she came in and the principal called her and said, no, this is not a good thing. He kept me kissing. And she's like, well, in our country, that's affection. That's like, I was so happy he was being friendly. And so those are like cultural competency things that have to be taught, that her son was not trying to be rude or anything. It was just that that's what happens in his country. And then the classic that a lot of people know or don't know, but very common, not just in the Latino culture, something where if a child is being reprimanded at home, out of respect, you look down. You don't, because you're showing deference. In the United States, you have a teacher say, look at me in the eye. Like if you're looking down, you're not paying attention.
Right.
So those programs have existed. They continue to exist and expand. And as we get new people from different regions, we try to always learn as much as we can. I know that later on, it's embedded in so many things that we do within the county in terms of that diversity. It's embedded in our international nights. It's embedded in things that are being taught in school. For example, when Egypt was being taught at an elementary school for my children, there was an Egyptian family and they brought in Egyptian food. When in high school they were teaching a book, they were teaching like water for chocolate, and it was interesting because the kids were reading that and my daughter came and they said, well, mole, they're saying mole, they don't understand what mole is. So then I cooked mole and I took it to them so that they would know. So it's embedded in so many different little ways, not just by the teachers and educators, but also by the families.
Okay. On a more distressing note, there's a fentanyl crisis taking place throughout our country. I have to imagine there's also a concern here in Fairfax County, just like every other place around our nation.
Yeah.
What are the schools doing to try to mitigate this problem?
The fiscal?
What are the schools doing to try to mitigate this fentanyl problem within our schools?
Okay, so in terms of the fentanyl, we have an office that provides training for all our staff. There's Narcan in most of our schools. Staff are trained to look at signs of any kind of opioid overdose. They have Narcan. We have different sessions. When I was a family liaison, we also have an office a substance abuse office training that all the teachers get, but we can also bring it out to parents. And we have translators that will interpret this. And I would offer that at least once, if not twice yearly at the schools that I that I worked at, and even though they were elementary schools, I would still offer it, where they would show you the packages of what looks like candy, but it's not candy, or they would show you a pen and no, it's a vape. So a lot of what we do is educating our families to help them recognize and see the signs of what any substance abuse can be and how we can try to prevent it. So that's what we're trying to do. One of the most compelling things that happened this year, we've had some community meetings, and there was a family, unfortunately, who lost their son, who took one pill that he thought was he thought it was a muscle relaxer, actually. Sure. And that family bravely stepped forward and told their story, and has gone to several community meetings and shared their story because their kid was on the baseball team. Yeah. Great kid. And the fact that we have brave families that are willing to share their story and their grief and try to really bring to light how devastating this can be, because their son was not trying to take what he thought was a quote-unquote illegal drug. He thought he was taking a prescription drug from someone, and fentanyl is so deadly that that's all it takes. Yeah. So we have the mechanisms, we have the resources, and we also have them translated. We have written documents translated, and we also provide interpretation, because we try to reach as many communities as we can to try to educate and work on that front.
Okay. Another problem that schools have to face, even though it's not something that we like to talk about, is measures to prevent school shootings. Is the school system working closely with law enforcement to mitigate that possibility in our schools?
So all of our high schools have a resource officer that is there from an actual police officer, and we also have safety and security. We try to harden our buildings by having vegetables in every building. So whereas before you could walk into the front door and you're in the school, now we're putting vegetables. Now some of the schools have been updated, not all of them have. We're working to update that so that when you have to go through a vegetable, like I know the school that was renovated that I worked in at Mount Vernon Woods, you actually had to go through 1, 2, and then 3 were in the building. So that measure of having to sign to be let in, you have to ring the doorbell, whereas before, when my kids were in school, I could just walk in. I never had to ring a doorbell. So that was the first measure that was put in years ago. You have to ring a doorbell to be let in. Now you have to go through several vegetables to get in, but at least one. And depending on the school, we're working on updating all our schools. We also just got a grant that will help put new video cameras in the schools to help with that as well.
Excellent. Well, we must take another short break, but stay with us for this continuing conversation about the state of our schools as we continue with Marcia St. Cunning on Inside Scoop.
Nice going, Spencer! I can't believe we broke Old Man Hennessy's window.
Correction, dude. You broke. I just threw the ball.
This is really bad. What are we gonna do?
We?
Go to the door and ask for the ball back. Are you serious? It's my ball, Myrtleback. You're so dead.
I'd run away.
Yeah, to Uruguay.
Kiss your life goodbye. Sorry.
Let's go. See ya. You never mean you're well.
Nice one. Some friends you are.
Hi. Tell him it was an accident. And we can fix the window. Come on. I'll come with you.
Loyalty. Pass it on.
You go first.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Well, it's a matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about life. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again. But an awkward silence can be a great thing, like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your
You ready? We're back with our special guest, Marcia St. Cunning of the Fairfax County School Board. Marcia, you've talked about the diversity in Fairfax County and how it really enriches everyone, especially the learning experience for kids. Some of them may be learning English as a second language, though, and I know that can be somewhat difficult for them. In a diverse county, is the school system doing all that it can do or should do for those kids who are learning English as a second language?
So we have really good news on that front, and we're really proud of that news because our multilingual learners, and before we used to say our English as a second language learners, but now we say our multilingual learners because we want to come from a point of them having a language already as opposed to a deficit. But this year, our multilingual learners went up by 11% in terms of their testing. Across the board, they did better than any state average. And what we have also seen is that multilingual learners, once they get to the point where they have mastered English, traditionally outperform native-born speakers. And part of that is the function of having more languages and the way that your brain operates. One of the really innovative things that is being done now is that when Dr. Reed came and she looked at our numbers and saw what was happening, she's like, 80% of our teachers are working with a multilingual learner at one point or another, even though they may not be English as a second language teachers. So we are now training all of our we're trying to train as many of our teachers. Our teachers can get certified in that English as a second language, so that if you're a music teacher and you're not really an English as a second language teacher, but you're going to have a multilingual learner in your music class, or in your PE class, or in your math program. And so teaching those skills and getting those teachers certified so that then they know how to transfer that knowledge to those students is also going to enhance that. The other piece that I want to flip to is not only do we address the needs of our multilingual learners, we also have great programs in terms of our native language learners to learn different languages. And we have immersion schools. We have flex programs in elementary schools where kids get that experience of learning a language as an elective. Not all schools have them. We have programs that go through to, for example, my daughters were learning Spanish at the Spanish Immersion School. They took it at middle school, then they went to high school in the IB program, and they took IB level Spanish classes, which allowed them to place out of those requirements in college. And we have them in a variety of languages. So when you talk about addressing the diversity that we have, it's not just looking at our multilingual learners and getting them to learn English. We want our native-born students to learn other languages and learn about other cultures. And I know that I can speak for some of the children that went to school with my children. They are now living in Spanish-speaking countries and working there because of the language experience that they received, and also obviously the cultural enrichment that they got, and they were not native speakers of Spanish. Mm-hmm. So we see that as being a very exciting pathway for all of our students.
That's quite impressive. Another area, though, that some feel is not addressed sufficiently in many schools throughout the country are those who are interested in vocational skills. We generally think of everyone as being on a college track, and we know that not everyone feels the need to go to college, or maybe is interested in going to college. in Fairfax County, are there avenues for those who would like to learn vocational skills?
We do, and we call it career and technical education now. We don't call it vocational school. We have academies that provide that. I am going to kind of use a little cheat sheet here to let you know. I know that Edison High School, one of my high schools, has a career and technical education, CTE, and they offer all kinds of programming. I will tell you the kind of programming that they offer is for example, Edison offers automotive, construction, cosmetology, criminal justice, culinary, cyber IT, electrical engineering, global STEM challenge program, HVAC, teachers for tomorrow, and veterinary science.
That's quite a
lot.
lot.
So that's Edison High School, okay? Chantilly High School has an academy, Falls Church has an academy, Marshall has an academy, and West Potomac has an academy. These kids can get out of these programs and earn a living wage. We have these programs, but they're in different academies. And so if you don't go to that school, you have to figure out a way to get there. And transportation is something that we're going to deal with and see how we can help get more kids in those programs. But not only are these students learning these skills, they're getting their certifications, their HVAC certifications. We also have partnerships with businesses that they get out of the program and they get hired into a program and make a living wage. The programs that we have with technology, the kids get the certifications that they need and then can start working with different, companies that offer jobs in these areas. We're seeing a great increase in the appetite for that. Space is always a limitation. For example, at Edison, where we have the automotive, you have to have a garage. I mean, we have like a really large garage at Edison, and I invite you to go look at it because it's really impressive. But if you don't have the space to do that, you can't offer it at the school. So I think what we have to do is be creative and look at partnerships. I know in particular, I have been working with our supervisor, Lusk, because of his passion for that as well, and what he has at the Wish Center and some of the training that he has, and how we may be able to partner with the Wish Center if they may have some space there that some of our students can leverage to go learn. I know that at the Wish they do welding or they do carpentry, and maybe we don't have the space at the school. Would this be a site that maybe our kids could go to? And all in all, it helps uplift the community, because some of the students that want a path to go to a career versus going to a university, if we could provide that to them, they can graduate, they can get the certifications, they could actually be out and earning a very comfortable living wage. And we're really excited about that. We're looking at the possibility even of opening an academy for air, like for air and space. Which would be at the western end of the county. But we try to look at what the potential needs are going to be in the marketplace and try to look at programming that we can offer our students. And since if you want to know that you can take your pets, if you have a pet, to be groomed at the Edison Academy. Now they don't cut the hair, but they charge you a nominal fee to bathe your dog, trim its nails, and the students are getting practice.
I may take them up on that.
I'm telling you, it's a wonderful. It's a win-win. You get a service, and our students get the experience.
Sure.
I know for a fact that the principal at Edison takes her dogs there, so they've become very good friends with her dogs.
Fantastic. I got to get two more areas in before it's time for us to conclude. One, all this takes money.
Yep.
Did the school budget increase this year? And
go ahead.
Is it likely to increase next year?
So this year we did not get fully funded, and the way that we were able to cover everything that we had, instead of offering our teachers and staff the 6% across the board raise, we offered them a 4% raise. Things will change with collective bargaining. I don't know what's going to happen. A lot of what our projections are based on our student enrollment. And last year the projection was that the thought was that we would have less students, but that didn't happen. Our student enrollment went up. This year, our projection is that we might stay the same, and so the increase in terms of student enrollment might not be there, but we are having a greater increase of students that need special education support, and that costs more money. We just had our first joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors, and a lot of the tax base is based on property taxes, and with rentals and businesses that has gone down. So we're not sure what that was going to look like. So we're just starting that process. But this is a really good opportunity for me to explain that part of our funding equation is what also comes from the state.
And is the state providing sufficient funding?
So no. So the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission, which is called JLARC, has been underfunding the schools in Fairfax County to the tune of $1,900 per student. Okay, and this is across the board for all jurisdictions. So what that translates into, what the standards of quality, the formula, talk about. They recommend that a certain amount of be funded. Like we're behind Kentucky, Maryland, and West Virginia in per pupil. Kentucky?
Wow.
Yeah, in per pupil funding. So if we were funded by what the JLARC formula is, their recommendation would be that could bring $568 million to Fairfax.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. And so a lot of what our funding comes from is the local jurisdictions. And so it's something that we have to look at and talk about why we're not putting that investment in our children and in our schools, and how can we work with the state to look at their own formulas, to look at their own studies, what they have come up with, and how is it that we can work to get some of that money for Fairfax County Public Schools, obviously, but we can talk about every division in the state of Virginia needing
and
that
speaking
funding.
of that, next year we have a gubernatorial election.
Mm-hmm.
Should education be one of the major issues in that upcoming campaign?
I think education is critical to be an issue. I think it is one of the most important issues, and I think that is one of the reasons I did run for school board, because it's the cornerstone of any society. It's the cornerstone of any democracy. So that's an investment in our future.
Excellent. Well, we have run out of time, but let me thank Marcia St. Cunning for joining us tonight on Inside Scoop. It was a riveting conversation, at least for me, and I hope you'll come back at some point so we can continue our discussion once more on Inside Scoop.